Alright guys, welcome back to VALORANT News. Massive matches yesterday in the VCT kickoffs around the world. Some big results in the Pacific side, certainly going against the grain over there, but also Evil Geniuses taken to the stage for the first time since their new roster. How about that performance of Evil Geniuses last night? Cooking up something special. Potter and Dawgemo in the series that they played. They move on to the playoffs already. Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. There's so much to get into today. Of course, we did see that T1, they just fell short to Paper X. It was a close fought affair. That game one, they arguably should have won. They didn't. And, you know, Izu was pretty gutted about it. So it's just tough the way the format works. I was, to be honest, kind of thinking that the playoffs, once they got there, might be double elimination, such that winning the first series in the playoffs wouldn't just set yourself up for Masters. It would be, okay, you've got to win one, and then you've got to then win a second again to actually lock that in. But that's not how they've done it in the end. And that means that if you get a bad matchup in the playoffs, then that could be pretty unlucky for you. Now, all of the Chinese games so far were 2-0. You can actually see here pretty much across the board. Tyloo, maybe surprisingly, getting slammed out of their group without even winning a series, or without winning a map, sorry. And we've got Wolves Edward coming up today. But this game has been going on right now, and FPX have just taken it actually 2-1 versus Trace Esports. So the very first 2-1 series of the Chinese kickoff, and it was an absolute banger, right? 13-10 or 13-11, and then the 13-10 here on the decider on the Lotus. So FPX, they confirm their spot through to the playoffs. Of course, as the #1 seed, that's very advantageous. And then Titan Esports Club, Dragon Ranger Gaming, that's just about got underway, and Titan Esports Club currently up 8-2 on the Icebox, which is the pick of Dragon Ranger Gaming as it stands. But the big talking point in the Pacific region yesterday was DRX. They have been a shoo-in, really, to qualify for every single international for, what, the last 2.5 years? I think it was like, was it Reykjavik or something they didn't qualify for? But apart from that, those guys, you know, Vision Strikers, that core has been everywhere. And I think the last time they failed to qualify, they might have lost to Lakio as well, which is the same thing here. But yeah, DRX, I talked about it yesterday because DRX, of course, came into this series having not lost a map in the tournament. Gen.G had played like so many maps, right? Because they'd had to go through the group stages, they'd had to go through the play-in, they won that. So they played like 14 maps coming into this series. So arguably that's a bit of an edge for Gen.G because they've had more LAN practice as a team. But still, DRX were going to be the favourites. And Binds, I mean, look, it really should have been a victory. I think during yesterday's series, I mentioned that it was DRX's pick. They were up quite nicely. But Gen.G brought back 4 in a row to take it to overtime and then won the overtime. So, I mean, that was a pretty big collapse from DRX. And, you know, big questions obviously on this team. They made that kind of shock roster change. RB gone, Zest gone, brought in Flashback, who definitely looks like a good piece. But there were questions as to whether Foxy9 was the man to get or whether he should stay as like a sub or whatever. But, yeah, he obviously comes into the team. But it's these Gen.G boys, right? Really impressed by these guys. Obviously, Texture and Meteor and Caron turn up big time in this series as well. They've got a great team, there's no doubt. But, of course, out of that South Korean region, you would have expected Gen.G to probably fall short here to DRX. So there will be questions whether it's something of a changing of the guard, and just because of the way the format works in the, well, around the world, only 2 teams end up making it, right? So as it stands, well, as it actually turned out to be, Gen.G are through, Paper X are through, and, you know, of course, there's no DRX. Of course, you also got to wonder whether DRX might have beaten T1, for example. Like, imagine it was Gen.G versus Paper X, and that was the way that the game worked out. Of course, based on the groups, that never happens, but it's just the way the format works that DRX might think, well, damn, we might have been able to beat T1 had we have had that matchup, but it wasn't the case. So the grand finals is going on right now, of course. This is, again, important because it determines seeding and stuff, and Gen.G, they're up 2-1 on Paper X right now. It's map 4 bind. Gen.G actually have taken the lead here 8-4, so, you know, honestly, fair play to Gen.G the way they're looking at the moment, and if they really can take down Paper X here, that's going to be quite the statement going into the major tournament. You guys will know the outcome to this by the time you watch the video, but yeah, still a remarkable turn of events there in the Pacific region, and obviously both those teams qualify anyway, but it's definitely a big deal. Now, in the Americas though, last night, we had a massive game between Evil Geniuses and G2. This was funny as well, where Dawgemo was asked here by Wyatt why you should buy the EG sticker capsule, or whatever it's called, the team capsule, and he basically says, you know, we need the money to get out of contract jail, you know, let me and Dawgemo, or let myself and Potter run free effectively, which I thought was pretty funny. And I don't know, I kind of like, I guess, that EG have leaned into this. It's tough, right? Because the team itself is really likable. People I don't really want to support EG's players, but it's just the organisation itself makes it sometimes a little bit difficult to do so. But the series between EG and G2 got underway yesterday. The first thing that was worth noting here as well is that Derek was using the 100T skin here. Now, it might not be the prettiest skin, to be fair. I think it's quite a nice one, to be honest. But it was noted that he had the snake fake like buddy on this thing, so I think he was making a bit of a statement. I know he was joking around, really, just, you know, pointing some fun at 100T, but also the fact that he's on Evil Genius's former 100 Thieves man, of course, and here he is using the 100T, you know, team skill. I thought it was pretty funny, to be fair, but it worked out for these guys. I mean, G2, I think I've got questions on G2, how good they really are and where they're going to be in the future. Of course, they're going to play a rematch against Crew Esports. We'll see how that's looking here in a second, because, you know, theoretically, they should be a good team. I thought they were going to be, you know, middle of the pack-ish, that type of range, based on what they did in, of course, Ascension. They won the Ascension. They come up to the Pro League. You're expecting them to be solid, but probably not to be anything spectacular, maybe. They've also made the change, you know, Leaf is in, Tex is gone, so there were some questions whether that would really help or harm them. But EG went map 1, they went down 8-1, and it looked like, damn, EG, because this is the first time we'd seen them play, and I made the pretty hot take, which of course has not been true at all, that EG would get double rounded here, but it didn't happen, because, you know, sure, they went down 8-1, and Potter took the second timeout in an eco round, down 8-1, and, well, guess what happened over the coming minutes here, right? So this is why Potter deserves so much credit for the success of Evil Geniuses, and, look, do I think they're going to win the World Championship again? No, let's be honest. But are they looking like they might turn into a better team than we initially thought they might be? I mean, quite possibly, yes, right? And we know they've got some talent on the team. I mean, there is questions about why Dawgemo wasn't bought out, because, I mean, he was great this series. Superman had some good moments. Like, everyone played well, of course. But, like, Dawgemo is a great player, and he was rumoured to be going, even I think he was rumoured to G2, wasn't he, at some point? There were discussions about it, but, you know, he was never bought out. He never escaped the contract jail. Everybody else did. And, you know, he was stuck on Evil Geniuses in some respects and, you know, forced to take the salary cut that they forced them to take. But the talent is still definitely there, and it just seems like Potter can get so much out of a unit of players that aren't expected to be all that impressive. Now, it's only one series, to be fair, but the fact that they were the #1 seeds, people were criticizing them, right? Saying, okay, come on, you give EG the #1 seed, different team, not the world champions anymore, they've lost their best players, all this type of stuff. But when it really comes down to it, they've proved that, you know, they didn't exactly belong #1 seed. I wouldn't go that far. I don't expect them to qualify for Masters Madrid, but they are only one series away from doing so based on the #1 seed. And, you know, Dawgemo's still there, Potter's still there, and just seems like whatever pieces you put together here, they're able to get a lot out of, even if all the other teams have basically stolen all their best players. It's really impressive, to be fair. So EG, they won the game 1, and then game 2 here on the Icebox, we actually saw Deadlock get used for, like, pretty much the first time ever, and it was the first Deadlock ultimate kill of the Americas here as well that Dawgemo managed to pick up. I mean, yeah, pretty crazy round to see anything like this, to see, you know, an ultimate kill from Deadlock. We talked about it when Deadlock was announced as a character, how this might look, and whether she would be used at all, and the general consensus was, okay, not particularly viable agent. But Dawgemo was making it work, and clearly Potter cooked something up here, and in the end, it went all the way down to the wire again. So, I mean, it was a really close series. GG played well, but EG just had the ice, and Superman 1 versus 2, final round. Superman gets the kill on Valin, 13-11, closes out the series, and that's a clean 2-0 at the end. Like, G2 will feel a bit gutted they didn't win because, as I say, the #1 seed is really nice here, getting out of the group. You get through to the playoffs, you only have to play one series from then on, but it was a 13-15 sunset after the overtime. You know, it started off down 7-0, 8-1, and then bang, they bring back the game. So lots of reaction to this, of course, from the players, from the team, and also from elsewhere as well, as Dawgemo says, you know, 2-0 versus G2, cooking with my Deadlock, like, what is going on right now? And yeah, I mean, Derek on the Gecko as well, of course, Dawgemo on the Deadlock, like, strange composition, but they made it work, and just seems like we've seen Loud innovate a fair bit, right? They've brought some interesting ideas to the table, but yeah, EG might be in a similar boat. So I'm not gonna kind of read too much into it yet, because EG's #1 seed, they always had the potential to win one series against a solid team in G2 or Crew it could have been, and qualify for the playoffs. Obviously, it gets harder now. The team they play next will almost certainly be a significantly higher challenge, you would think, than G2, and we'll see the way the bracket shapes out here in a second. But, you know, obviously Potter is discussing exactly how they were able to get the best out of Dawgemo and just why he is so good as a player. So, yeah, I mean, what a duo, right? They're back in business, the rest of the team is gone, but Potter and Dawgemo are still here, it seems, to stay, and obviously reaction from G2 as well, you know, coming with the fire in the lower bracket. They will play Crew again. If they can win that again, then they'll at least get through to the play-ins, but that is definitely a gauntlet. As Leaf says, too many mistakes, they capitalize super well. The Icebox comp is crazy OP as well, and this is the thing, right? Like, playing against it and even watching it, it just felt like they were kind of suffocated at times, and Leaf certainly felt the brunt of that. Even Ethan as well, I thought it was nice to see kind of Ethan, of course, on that World Championship winning team with Dawgemo and Evil Geniuses last year. Dawgemo's too nice, he says, so great to see. And even Zelsis says EG is still the best team in the world. So yeah, I think it's too much to say this quite this early, but I don't know, man. I mean, they're through to the next round already, and I'm sure that any team that faces EG in the next round will feel confident they can beat them. But honestly, at this point, maybe it's not worth underestimating Evil Geniuses and what they're going to bring to the table here again for back-to-back seasons with Potter at the wheel. So yeah, NRG of course are through to the playoffs, Loud are through to the playoffs, EG are through to the playoffs. There will be 3 teams in the play-in. One of those will be C9 MIBR, that happens today. Lev Sen though of course is the star of the show, and also G2 Crew, the rematch that G2 won 2-1 the first time, that happens today as well. Lev Sen of course though is one that's grabbing all the headlines here because I mean the group of death, this decider game in the group of death was always going to be mega, and it's really tough to say, right? I think of the 2 teams, my feeling is that Sentinels are going to find a way here to come out on top, but I think if they do, it's going to be 2-1, it's going to be overtimes. I think that's going to be a pretty epic series, and of course we'll see in the group C with Leo Messi putting the Crew Esports thing on his Instagram story, which I thought was pretty wild to be fair. Is going to make any impact on them actually getting the job done and trying to make it through to Masters Madrid in the same crazy way they managed really for the last chance qualifier last year. So very much intrigued to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.